with a number of thank yous. I would like to begin by thanking Neil Lawson, whose inspiration, leadership and tenacity in championing a new centre-left politics never ceases. I don't often get the chance to convey my appreciation to him for the opportunities he has given me over these last 5 years. Without him, there would be no Compass. Please join me in thanking him. This event and our movement continues to grow in force and with even greater purpose. We now have over 4,000 members, we have over 25,000 supporters, and there are over 1,000 leading progressive activists in this room today. And the conference could not have happened without a massive effort from Team Compass. So I'd like to thank Zoe and Joe, to David, who come down from Scotland to help us this week, to our interns, Joe and Peter, and last but not least, our vibrant and energetic volunteers who have given up their Saturday to the cause. I now need to announce the winning policy ideas from our policy competition, How to Live in the 21st Century. This was a year-long groundbreaking ideas gathering exercise with over 200 ideas submitted, discussed, debated, and now voted on by our members. There are 7 categories with the top 3 from each, and the results are as possible. On democracy, our members voted for to prioritise as policies a referendum on the voting system on the same day as the next general election. To democratise the House of Lords. For true liberty and democracy, we need electoral reform of both Houses of Parliament, not just one. On equality, our members voted for a maximum wage, to abolish poverty, tax reform, and to roll back the Thatcherite legacy. On liberty, a written constitution with a Bill of Rights and electoral reform. Habeas corpus is everybody's right, no exceptions. To scrap the national identity scheme. On miscellaneous, our members voted for media ownership matters, renewing Britain's railway network, student funding, equitable and sustainable. On solidarity, abolish our tax havens, give priority to distribution rather than growth, and universal early years education and care. On sustainability, a windfall tax on energy companies, for annual targets for carbon emissions, council housing for the 21st century. On well-being, compulsory occupational pension scheme with employer and employee contributions, no Trident replacement, get rid of Britain's nuclear weapons, and work towards the closure of all tax havens. So those were voted on by our members in the last fortnight, and we will pick up on these policy ideas over the next year and incorporate them into our campaigning and in our calls for change and in our alternative manifesto for the next election. Now then, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our final speakers. This is an amazing final plenary. 2 of my favourite politicians. And I didn't sleep very well last night, and I actually had a nightmare, and that was the nightmare of David Cameron winning the next election, and I don't think that's any nightmare any of us ever want to wake up to. But I did have a good dream, and in that good dream, John Cruddas was leader of the Labour Party, and Helena Kennedy had succeeded in reforming the Constitution and had become the first democratically elected head of state. Anyway, back down to earth, some really robust academic analysis from someone who has consistently led the debate on inequality in this country. We're joined by Richard Wilkinson, and Richard Wilkinson is going to give the first speech today. So Richard, thank you for coming today. You have 10 minutes, please try and stick to it. Thank you, Richard.
What I want to do is to confirm your intuitions. I think that's a really important process. To believe that your political opinions, your view of the world, or the importance of inequality or anything like that, are just a sort of private intuition, is a weak position. If we're really going to persuade people, we need hard data, we need good evidence. We've heard a lot, I feel, about tactics, what kind of electoral system, who should be leader, these sort of issues, a lot of short-term stuff. It seems to me that the problems we've had with MPs' expenses and so on is it's a reflection of the fact of a complete loss of values on the left, a loss of any idea of where we're going. And what we've got to do is rebuild a whole movement in the way that the early socialists did, an educational process based on a fundamentally different analysis of society. And I hesitate to refer to Marx, but what Marxism did was provide an analysis of society, flawed in many ways, that has been overtaken by all sorts of events that he never predicted. But it was an empirical analysis which served as the basis of a movement for at least 100 years. We now lack that. We have no idea that can inspire people with where we should be going as a society, what the goal is, the direction we should be moving. I want to show you just one or two things which I think are sort of hints at what can be done and what we need if we're going to do the kind of education that is needed. You know, it's not a matter just of tactics, of how to get the working class vote and this kind of thing. It's a matter of understanding the world and society we're in differently. So, could I have my first slide, please? This is a simply, I hope, familiar to a lot of people, a graph of life expectancy in relation to national income per person. These are the poorer countries where you see a very rapid rise in life expectancy with early stages of economic growth. But we're out here. There's the UK. The rich developed countries, it makes no difference whether you're as rich as that or as rich as that to life expectancy. And if I put up a graph of happiness, you'd see just the same thing. Look at Richard Layard's book on happiness, shows the same sort of pattern. Look at within societies, at a period over which incomes of everyone triple or quadruple, and you find that measures of well-being are actually unchanged. They go along flat. We are the first generation who've got to the end of what economic growth can do for us. That's an incredibly important thing. For 1,000 years, the best thing you could do for human quality of life was to raise material standards. We have got to the end of that. And we've got to the end of it at a time when we know that there are environmental constraints which mean we should stop doing that. What we have to do now is to refocus from raising material standards to thinking about the social quality of life, the quality of social relations in our society. And I want to show you that that actually is built on material foundations. It's built on, the foundation it's built on is the extent of income differences between us. That intuition that people have had, that inequality is divisive and socially corrosive, is absolutely right. But before I come on to that, can I have the next slide, please? This shows, instead of, it's still got life expectancy up the side, it looks just like the last one, it has CO2 emissions along the bottom. And that's why it looks like the last one. And Britain is somewhere here, I think. In a way, all these countries, all these rich, developed market democracies, we have to regard as overdeveloped. Where we maximize the social benefits of economic growth and minimize the environmental costs is in that circle. All these, if you think of contraction and convergence, all these societies need to move back into that box, and all these poorer countries need to move up into it. If Britain did that, we would not be sacrificing any of the real social benefits of income and higher living standards, but we would be reducing our carbon emissions by something like 70% on existing technology. These countries achieve it on existing technology. How much more could we do with renewables and so on? That is a problem that is soluble. And we must believe that it's soluble. We must